I just spent the last week with 50 of the most amazing women in Washington, D.C., hanging out with the nation's leaders in transportation. We traveled from all across the country to meet up in D.C. for a jam-packed program. We checked into an awesome hotel and went right to registration. We got all sorts of cool stuff: journals, books, t-shirts, and after registering, Marcia Ferranto kicked off the program with a welcome and explained why we were all there.
WTS signed a memorandum of understanding with Secretary Ray LaHood in 2010. We spent a year putting together the program, this initiative that was designed for girls between the ages of 13 to 18 to build an awareness of how transportation is a viable career choice.
It was really awkward because we didn't know each other, but after several games, we started bonding. To get into teams, we had to play a game based on the theme of the summit, accessibility. We went around the room looking for people who had puzzle pieces that matched ours and represented different types of disabilities. It was great because after learning about accessibility issues from Dr. Jennifer Ogle, we worked together as teams to complete several challenges. I haven't played the memory game since I was little, but matching pictures with technical accessibility terms was a lot harder. I was so glad that the mentors knew some of this stuff so they could help us. Between traveling, dinner, activities, it ended up being a really long day, but I knew it was going to be a good week. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. We also heard from Marcia Anderson Bomar, and she really set the stage for this week with an awesome quote.
You just don't really know how all of these experiences that you have are going to influence exactly what you do or how you do it, but know that each experience that you have is going to make you better. It's going to add to your value. It's going to give you the opportunity to learn more about yourself and how you fit in the world, and just make the most out of all of those moments.
That's all for now. Until tomorrow. Our first full day has been a big day so far. This morning, we rode the metro to the US DOT building. This was the first time I'd ever been on a subway. I couldn't believe how big the tunnel was. It was awesome. We even had to run a little to make sure that everyone made it when we changed trains. When we got off the metro, we looked kind of like a parade walking down the street to the US DOT building. Security there was intense. It was almost like going through airport security, except for we got to keep our shoes on and we got a badge at the end. When we finally got through, the main entrance reminded me of the Ministry of Magic. While we were waiting on the Secretary of Transportation, Ray LaHood, we finally had an opportunity to formally introduce ourselves.
I got here because I went to a WTS convention over in LA and helped a little bit behind the scenes because I had gotten there early. And then the next thing I know, my mentor is calling me asking me if I want a trip to DC. So that's how I got here, and I wanted to do civil engineering and public relations, and she's part of the planning committee at LAX. So I was just thrilled to be able to have this opportunity.
When Secretary LaHood is in the house, there's usually a line out the door, similar to your favorite rock stars. Today, you have an audience with Secretary LaHood all by himself. This is a big deal.
It was awesome hearing from Secretary LaHood, the top dog for transportation in the entire country. His message about encouraging ourselves and others to join the transportation field gave a lot of perspective about the reason that we all traveled to D.C.
You've all experienced transportation, but you probably never really thought about it as a career. You never really thought about it as an opportunity. And that's where I think your mentors can be helpful in terms of their own experience and their own involvement and their own ability to really have a career, a meaningful career, a career where you really make a difference, where you can really make a change.
He related transportation not only on a national scale, but also all the way down to our communities.
But we also have really promoted the idea that people want a lot of different forms of transportation. And many of the communities that you all come from have been leaders in developing more transit, more buses, more streetcars, more walking and biking paths for communities.
To be innovative and successful in our communities, he gave us the following orders.
And if you work hard, and what I mean by that is you show up, you use your talents, and you pay attention, and you will be successful.
Then, after hearing from the man, we heard from two of the most powerful women in transportation, Ann Farrow, leader of the whole trucking industry, and Therese McMillan, second in command of the Federal Transit Administration. It's amazing hearing how these women got to the top.
I guess one of the main questions would be, well, how did you get into transportation? Because when you're, in middle school, high school, and someone says, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Jumping up, Deputy Administrator of Federal Transit. Probably wasn't on my agenda at the time. But it's very interesting, I think very important for all of you to know that your life path really is full of these forks in the road, and the forks in the road you take is generally how you end up where you are.
Therese spoke about the importance of communication and how it has really helped her succeed.
No matter what you do, the one thing I would say, you need to know how to communicate. You have to be able to communicate what you know and what you do well. And if there's one skill that I've learned that has helped to advance me in my job, it has been to be a good communicator.
She even mentioned how her old hobby of theater helped her to become a better communicator.
Well, I think I actually had a leg up, and this is sort of interesting. I was in theater. Yeah, so one of the things I did theater and dance. So I actually was used to being on stage, and ironically, that helped a lot. I was used to being in front of audiences. Yeah.
I was not in theater. I was painfully shy. I would hardly even go into the five and dime stores. A little girl to ask a question. And Teresa's point about communication is so critical. It's being willing to each situation you put yourself in may offer an opportunity to communicate publicly. Just take the risk. Just take the risk.
I thought it was really cool to see how these two different women led their own paths, yet wound up at the same ending, working together every day. Ann Farrow spoke about the importance of women in transportation and charged us with a mission.
You have been brought here by a remarkable group of professional women, WTS leaders across the country. Take that as an example of the strength and power of women working together. Believe in each other, believe in your friends, and be very grateful to the mentors that brought you all here, because this is an awesome responsibility and a continued very deep and powerful example of just how much women care about women succeeding in the workplace and in the world. We need you. We need you for our future.
Next up was supposed to be Richard DeVelder, but we had a surprise guest. Victor Mendez, the administrator of the Federal Highway Administration, stopped in to say hello to one of the mentees because he used to work with her dad. It was really cool that he made time to stop by, and we all got to hear a quick speech from him giving us the secrets to success.
We'll succeed if you stay focused, think about innovating, treat people with respect. Thank you.
Then we heard Mr. DeVelder speak, which was really cool. It gave a lot of context to the presentations Dr. Ogle gave last night on accessibility. He spoke all about the different types of lifts used to help people with disabilities to get on and off trains, and how he has his own team to help during times of evacuation.
And you all heard Secretary talk this morning about state of good repair. This is exactly what he was talking about. This is what state of good repair means, is that you're keeping these things in good repair so individuals can access the community. And so it's very important. One of the things that we have done recently in new regs, but also in reauthorization of our technical systems, is added accessibility features to what state of good repair is. Because people say, well, it's a given. Nothing is a given when it comes to access. You need to be very direct and specific as to what needs to occur.
At lunch, we got a chance to mingle and network with female leaders in the DOT. It was cool hearing from the leader of the President's Commission on Women and other women that President Obama appointed himself. What an honor. From there, we piled on a bus and went to one of the coolest places for the entire trip, TRACON. For those of you who don't know, it's the Terminal Radar Approach Control Facility.
The control center for TRACON was outstanding.
They controlled how airplanes landed and when they were taking off, and I thought it was so cool.
We went to the TRACON Center, which was really cool, and we got to see all the airplanes flying over the city yesterday, so that was awesome.
After that, we went from the best tour to the most eye-opening activity, the Accessibility Challenge. In our teams, we partnered with travel trainers with various disabilities and used pinpoint geotech GPS units to not only learn about accessibility, but to experience it. Thanks to Bentley, we learned how to download, map, and display all the information we collected in the field. APTA, which I learned was the American Public Transportation Association, loaned us the use of its conference room to have pizza and use it as our mobile computer lab as we learned the basics of GIS software. The Bentley rep was so awesome in helping us prep our maps for the presentations that we were going to give on day 4. It was such a crazy day, but I learned a lot. The third day was filled with a bunch of cool tours. Our first stop was at the White House. I never thought I would ever have a chance to go inside. While we were waiting in line, we had to start dancing because it was so cold. We even saw the presidential dog out on his walk.
The White House is amazing. It's gorgeous.
Then we got to tour the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial and all of the memorials around the reflection pond. Since a lot of the girls had never been to DC before, this was a really cool chance to explore. The downtime really allowed us all to hang out and get to know one another better. Next up for the day was a ride out to Turner Fairbanks Highway Research Center. After getting a brief introduction about the operations of the research facility, we broke into smaller groups and visited several of the labs. Some of our favorite labs were about structures, materials, and crash testing. We also heard Julie Evans, a recent college grad, speak about transportation systems and how women can fit into the whole transportation field.
In order to design a system for a diversity of users, you have to have a diversity of inputs, and I think that there is a shortage of women's perspective and women's skills in engineering and transportation, I think.
We then traveled to the National Transportation Safety Board to see the TWA Flight 800 reconstruction. Cindy Keegan first showed us the technical side of the reconstruction, including the modeling animations they used to try to figure out what happened. After hearing what they learned, we went into the hangar where the actual plane was put together and preserved. A lot of emotions ran through me when I saw the rebuilt plane. It was definitely a sight to see.
The TWA, that was really cool, seeing the plane put back together and everything.
After a long day of tours, we headed to the mall for dinner and downtime. We spent a lot of time on the bus today, but it was great that Veolia Transportation donated a bus for us to get around and make travel easier. It gave us a lot of time to get to know each other and our bus driver. The day didn't stop there. When we got back to the hotel, some of the groups worked into the night preparing for their accessibility presentations the next day. Well, it's time to go to bed so I can be prepared for my presentation tomorrow. Today was another big day for us. We jump-started the morning by heading over to Howard University and listening to a very excited Jim O'Brien speak. He's a public speaking master and an educational director of the American Society of Civil Engineers.
But I'll tell you that leadership is an art, a science, and a craft of influencing other people to accomplish a task and to improve a mission. What do I mean by that? It's an art. There's an intuitive sense to it. There's a feeling. There's attitudes. There's There's emotions in leadership. That's the art part. The right brain stuff, that people stuff, is part of leadership. It's also a science. That's that left brain stuff, the very logical, the lacking emotion, but Mr. Spock kind of thing.
He taught us about leadership and the keys to an effective presentation. His outgoing nature and enthusiasm really captured my attention and gave me a lot to think about for my group presentation on the Accessibility Challenge. After seeing Mr. O'Brien speak, I was really nervous about giving our accessibility presentation. It ended up being awesome though, because we had a chance to practice and got feedback from all the mentors and speakers. The presentations were interesting because we got to hear what everyone learned from the Accessibility Challenge and how it changed the way that they look at stuff.
And this is our group picture with Mr. J and all three of us behind him. So overall, basically, accessibility is very important and important to the city.
The whole point of us doing this presentation, and we learned a lot, was to actually feel the empathy and to realize that we are not the only ones that use these roads, and some of the things that were easy for us aren't so easy for others, and so a crack in the road that we could step over, we noticed, could be a very harsh environment. Also the surface irregularities and simple things that we wouldn't necessarily think about. So it was very useful to all of us to go through this and be able to notice all the different things that just simply by being aware can be fixed.
I thought that was very interesting, and it is very obvious that as engineers or future engineers, future transportation leaders, we need to think about what we can do to make transportation easier for everyone.
Right after presentations, we got back together to hear Summer Pretty speak about values and teamwork. During her talk, we got to go outside and do an activity about the importance of working together and asking for help when you need it. We had to walk around a string maze blindfolded until we found the way out. But little did we know the maze was a circle, and we needed to ask for help. After a long morning at Howard, we toured the WMATA Control Center. This is the brains behind all the subway trains moving all around the city.
I didn't realize that we were going all different directions. I was just like, oh, okay, we're moving back and forth and stopping suddenly, and then getting to see where we were, like on the little map, how it showed the dots and stuff. That was cool. But then when we get to the control center, how everybody sitting at computers showed, like, controlling where the metro goes.
In the afternoon, we were given another opportunity to explore more of DC. We got to choose between a Segway tour or walking tour. I personally chose the Segway tour and had a great time roaming DC with the other girls. It was kind of scary at first, but once I got the hang of it, I didn't want to get off. This was definitely a mode of transportation that I never thought I would get the chance to take. To wrap up the day, we got to go aboard the USS Sequoia for an amazing dinner cruise. Barry Fromm taught us a lot about the boat and ended on an inspirational note.
In order to reach your goals, you're going to have to put in the hard work and the discipline and the drive to be successful. And there is no substitute for that.
I learned that the Sequoia is the retired presidential yacht and was filled with cool history and pictures of presidents in the exact spots that they were standing. It was an awesome trip down the river full of neat history, good food, and great new friends.
And the USS Sequoia tonight was just out of this world. I mean, what an opportunity. And to be able to rub shoulders and see some of the things that we've seen, from the, safety board. I mean, I just told them, you guys are really blessed.
Today was a lot of fun, and I'm not ready to say goodbye to everyone tomorrow. Today was a little sad as we had our last breakfast together. I can't believe how the last 4 days flew by. Between the speakers and tours and getting to know all the girls, I'm exhausted, but there are so many amazing memories that I'm taking with me. Before we left, we were all given the chance to reflect on some of our favorite activities of the summit.
Well, I never thought about a lot of the different aspects of transportation and what you can do, and it's kind of exciting because I'm already going to school for it, and so I'm hooked on it, but now I know I can do so much more, especially with aviation and all of that. It's very exciting. So.
The Transportation Youth Summit is incredibly important because it offers young women the opportunity to view a wide variety of career opportunities so that they can see what's available to them and things that they might not have thought of before. When you think about transportation, sometimes your perspective is limited on maybe what you see driving down the highway or if you ride transit. But the opportunities are so much more diverse than that. So Transportation U fills that gap and offers young women those glimpses into those types of careers.
It's really interesting, and I'm glad I got to come and see more behind the scenes stuff. I liked everything. Does everything count?
I want to say thanks to WTS International, the USDOT, and all the people that made this program happen. It was awesome, and I can't wait to come back as a mentor.